The first large NBA slate of the year has arrived, and I'm here to take a look at Stokastic's NBA DFS lineup generator, see what lineups we're getting for tonight's slate. For this video, I'm only going to be looking at lineups on DraftKings. I'm going to do a separate video for FanDuel, so if you're looking for that, you can find that video separately right here on this channel. While you're coming, by the way, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Of course, I'm recording this more than 5 hours before lock right now. I do want to say you should be running this as close to lock as possible. We're going to get late breaking news. Things are going to change in terms of who looks good by projection. Ownership is going to change. So a lot changes between now and lock. This is just a first look. And if you want to take a look for yourself closer to lock, run some lineups, use some of the lineups from the lineup generator closer to lock, you can get it for 20% off right now using the link in the description of this video. It's usually just $14.95 per week. Right now you can get it for $12 per week. Regardless, even at full price, I think it is a fantastic value. I think this is the most powerful buy price tool in the entire industry. You're just spending $14.95 per week usually to get only plus EV lineups. All of these lineups have been run through the stochastic sims. Any bad lineups have been thrown out. Only long-term profitable lineups showing up here in the lineup generator. I think it's powerful. You should check it out if you haven't already done so. Again, the link is in the description. You can get it for 20% off your first week. All right, we're going to take a look at some DraftKings main slate lineups in this video. Again, FanDuel is going to be a separate video. For me, for NBA, as of right now, I'm just doing all lineups. You can choose to just do chalky lineups. You can choose to just do balanced lineups or contrarian. I kind of want to get a mix of different types of lineups, so I'm going to do all lineups here. I'm also not locking anybody. Again, if anybody's ever good enough to make it into 100% of my lineups, if they project well enough point per dollar, they're probably going to come into all of our lineups anyway. So I'm not going to make that choice. I'm going to let the lineup generator make that choice for me. All right, first lineup we see here, we have Russell Westbrook, Talon Horton-Tucker. Nobody. Oh, we got Devin Vassell is our very low owned play at just, he doesn't project all that well point per dollar. You can see here is 6,400. Projects for just 30 fantasy points. But outside of Devin Vassell, a fairly chalky lineup across the board for a slate of this size. You can see here that this is on the far chalky end of the spectrum. Any lineup you get here is going to project really well. I mean, the lineup generator is just not going to give you a lineup that doesn't project well, especially for NBA, which is so projections driven. So this lineup is the lineup generator balances lineups for you. This one fairly chalky, but then throws in the 1% owned Devin Vassell to bring down the ownership a little bit. Looks like a nice lineup, and you can see the total ownership much lower than it was yesterday when it was like we got something like as much as 400, but still fairly high, much higher than other sports, because NBA, you really do need to play some chalk. It's chalk for a reason, and it's not an event-based sport, so it's a little bit more projectable in general. All right, let's take a look at the next lineup. You can see this one. I think it moved very slightly to the right in terms of chalkiness. Who do we have low owned here? Nobody's super low. We got De'Aaron Fox at 8.4% projected ownership. Robert Covington 1.5%. I missed that. So we do have a pretty low owned Robert Covington there. Pretty surprising to see the ownership that low. We'll see if it holds and whatever the news breaks later on. Jeremy Sochan 11.4%. Am I pronouncing that right? I forget how to pronounce his name. Marcus Smart 12.5%. You can see here, I'm kind of looking at, are we getting to any lineups that have a bunch of players from the same team? I don't think we're going to get it on a main slate. I think in general, we're going to max it like 3 probably from the same team on a slate this size. Maybe at some point in the season, there'll be enough value from one team that'll change, but generally probably not going to get too many players from the same team. I'm going to save this one. Let's take a look at one more, and then we'll just kind of click through until we see our exposures at the end. A couple Mavs players in this one, a couple Grizzlies here. We've got 0.5% on Mike Muscala. So that's kind of an interesting trend. Every single lineup we've looked at so far has at least one player 1.5% owned or lower. That's, a little bit interesting to see that we're just playing some far from the chalk type players. This one also has 3.6% owned Grant Williams. And all of these lineups are showing up on the chalky. And these aren't even the contrarian lineups, and they still have really low owned players here. I'm gonna click, and if we ever see one that jumps to the middle here, maybe I'll take a look at that specific lineup. Oh, I missed that one. Had an opportunity, but I clicked right through it. There we go. Here's a super contrarian lineup. All right, so this one under 100% total ownership. Yeah, this is very contrarian relative to the other lineups we're seeing here. Still has some big chalk here. We still have Evan Mobley at 40% projected ownership. We've got Şengün at 16.5%. But then we just have a lot of very contrarian players here. Tyrese Halliburton, 6% projected ownership. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 2.3%. Franz Wagner, 6.5%. 1.2% owned. Ben Simmons. Really interesting looking at this lineup, how low the projected ownership is across the board. Different type of line. I'm just going to continue saving until we get to the maximum number of allowed lineups. And we saw some bonus lineups there. It says 20 is what we're supposed to be allowed, but we've been getting more than 20 recently, and not complaining about that. Just getting some extra lineups, 40 plus EV lineups instead of 20 at a time. Our highest owned player, highest exposed player for us in our 40 lineups, Jaren Jackson Jr., 55% of our lineups. Tyus Jones in 50%. Desmond Bane, 45%. Evan Mobley, 42%. Levine, 40%. Obi Toppin, 38%. A lot of value plays making it in here. Interestingly, we don't have any super. I guess Luka is our first very expensive player. He's 11,000, but we only have 30%. We don't have any of the really expensive players getting into a majority of our lineups. We're getting, towards the top. It's a lot of mid-range and value options until we get to Luka. So that's a little bit interesting. And if you want to see why we're getting to these players, so I can show you in Fantasy Cruncher here. We can take a look. I'm sorted by value here. So this is just the top point per dollar plays on the slate. We're getting Obi Toppin because we're projecting for 24 minutes. And for some reason, he's just 3,000 tonight in a great spot against the Wizards. So we're getting to a lot of Obi Toppin just because he is the top projected value as of right now. Again, more than 5 hours before the slate actually locks. Talon Horton Tucker, similarly, only 4,500. We're projecting him for 28.65 minutes, and he's an over a fantasy point per minute guy. Tyus Jones, over a fantasy point per minute guy. We've got him in for over 30 minutes here. He is 4,900, but really not priced like the starter he is now. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, we saw him in an early lineup, only projecting him for 2.7% ownership, but he is min priced here. We're projecting him for nearly 27 minutes. So a lot of, the top values making it in more so than the top overall projected guys. And then our top projected guy we saw was Luka, who we sort by projection. Luka does project 7 fantasy points better than the second best projected player as of right now. So not surprising to see that Luka is the player at the top where we're getting the most of. So anyway, that kind of gives you an idea of where we're at currently on the slate. But again, a lot can change on an NBA day. I mean, it changes throughout the day pretty frequently. You wouldn't think it would happen that much early in the season, but it's been happening already in this season. We're getting a lot of surprise news, players being ruled inactive unexpectedly, etc. So make sure you're running the lineup generator closer to lock. Again, if you want to check it out for yourself, the link is in the description. You can get it for 20% off right now. Get it for just $12 your first week. It's a fantastic deal. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching. Good luck tonight.